What's up, everybody? Over the past few days, we have been flooded with questions about observation hours, and we were going to make individual posts about each and every one of them, but a lot of these questions have some crossover and some similarities, so we decided we would make one screen sharing video looking at the PTCAS application itself and answering these questions about observation hours, okay? So the first one that I'm going to answer is how many hours, observation hours, should I shoot for? We've had several applicants reach out to us and say, hey, I have this many hours. Is this good enough? Is this not good enough? In general, if you've been following our Instagram page for long enough, or if you've been following us on YouTube, you know that we prescribe to the rule that we call the 3-5-4-6 rule. You should shoot for 300 to 500 total observation hours spread across 4 to 6 different settings. So that should include outpatient, inpatient, and then different areas of discipline like orthopedics, pediatrics, neurological, different things like that. You want to have more diversity of hours in your portfolio of observation hours. Okay, so that's the first recommendation that I give. If you aren't there, if you have, let's say, as an arbitrary number, 100 observation hours, ask yourself, is it reasonable for me to be able to get more observation hours? Okay, if you have a ton of observation hours already, let's say you have 1,000 hours, which that's not saying that you have to have that, but let's just say you do. Is getting an extra 50 hours really going to make that big of a difference in your application? I would say probably not. But if you have 100 hours and over the summer you're able to get another 100 hours, do you think that would be beneficial? Absolutely. That's going to double the number of hours you have. The 3-5-4-6 rule is a rule of thumb. It's kind of the gold standard of what we tell applicants is a good amount of hours to show that you have a solid understanding of the total breadth and depth of the profession without devoting so much time to observation hours, which sometimes we know they're difficult to get, especially in more inpatient settings, and they can take away time that you have from school, being able to work, things like that. So that 300 to 500 hour range is what we recommend. The next question is, how do I submit my observation hours? Okay, so this one we've covered several times, but just as a review, this is under our PTCAS dummy account that we have, that we always keep open. You're going to click on supporting information, go to observation hours. You're going to click add observation hours, and then fill out all these necessary fields down here. Okay. Another question that we have is there a minimum number of hours that I need for my observation hours to be counted? This is a great question. There are programs may post on their program specific page on PTCAS or on their school website if there's a minimum number of observation hours that you have to have in order to apply to that program. That is subject to the program's analysis of their applicants and how they determine who they're going to keep application-wise versus not. So some schools post a minimum number of hours that you need to apply. So that may be the case, but to have your observation hours verified, as long as you can show and have someone sign off that you completed those hours, which, how do we do that? This is from a previous video. At the bottom, it says PT observation hours submission type. How do you want to have your PT observation hours verified? You can either send a verification request via email, or you can upload a signed form verifying your observation hours. So either one of those two. I would not recommend that you don't have your hours verified because that just looks sketchy. Okay. But let's say that you have 2 hours in a pediatric setting. Is that too few of hours for you to be able to submit? No. As long as you can enter the information and have someone, a licensed physical therapist or physical therapy assistant, verify those hours, then you're totally fine to submit them. So you don't need a minimum number of hours. But there are some programs who have a minimum number of observation hours that they require in order for your application to be accepted. So please do your homework, do your due diligence on the programs you're applying to, and see if they have minimums for observation hours. I remember previously there were some limitations, and they would say you need this many hours of inpatient, this many hours of outpatient. I think a lot of those restrictions have gone away because of limitations that individuals have to be able to get into those settings due to COVID or other healthcare policy restrictions that currently are in place for inpatient centers. So there's that question. Okay, so our final question that we have, or that we're going to address in this video is it okay to still be working on my observation hours after the PTCAS application opens on June 15th? The answer to this is a resounding yes, you absolutely can. Remember that you can wait to submit your observation hours verification requests until after you've completed some observation hours. So let's say I'm going to have a bunch of hours completed by the middle of July, and I want to wait to send my verification request until all of those hours are completed. That is something that we would recommend. The main thing that you need to look at is in relation to when my earliest program submission deadline is, how soon am I going to have these observation hours completed? It can take some time for verification requests to be processed just because life happens, right? Sometimes verification hours requests get sent to people's spam folders. People forget, they accidentally delete the email. There's all kinds of weird things that can happen when you send those out. So give yourself some time to make sure that your verification, your hours can be verified ahead of time. And also remember that you can submit your application before your verification, your hours have been verified as well. So it's not like once you reach June 15th, you have to submit all your application or your observation hours that day, and you can't add more. You can add more, certainly, and then you can create observation hours requests and have those sent out. You also can add observation hours experiences after you've submitted your application. That's one of the areas that you can go back in and add additional hours after you submit. So if you have a program that has a really early, like an August 1st submission deadline, you can submit your application, and let's say throughout August you're gaining observation hours, you can add additional observation hours and add those additional verification requests after you've completed them. You also can come up here to the hours completed versus the hours planned or in progress section. This is for inpatient versus outpatient. And let's say I've completed 200 hours and I have 50 planned or in progress remaining. Okay. This also can be flip-flopped. So let's say that you're working as a PT aide, or you just got hired as a PT aide, and you know you're going to be working 30 to 40 hours a week for the next, I don't know, 6 months to a year. Then you can put a bunch of hours in here, right? Let's say you're going to work for the next 6 months, 40 hours a week. That comes out to around 1,000 hours, right? Does it look great if you have a ton of hours completed and not very many hours completed compared to the number of hours you have planned or in progress? Not necessarily. It kind of depends on the nature of it. I'd say it doesn't look great if you have like 10 hours completed and you have 1,000 hours planned or in progress. But it is what it is. Your situation is what it is. As long as those hours can be verified, that's the main thing. The person who is signing off on your hours, as we talked about previously, whoever's verifying your hours, they're going to be the ones that are verifying this is legit. This person's actually going to be coming this amount of time, things like that. And if there is a big discrepancy like this, make sure that you talk to the person who's verifying your hours so that they are on board with what's going on and what you're doing. Okay. I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives you some clarification. If you have additional questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We do have application consultation coaching as well as essay coaching as well. And we are offering some limited promotional discounts on those. So don't hesitate to reach out and to inquire about those. Okay. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Keep the questions coming, and happy applying.